Welcome back to what used to be All Things Mysterious. And now you may notice has a brand new name.
And a brand new logo. So we just wanted to talk about a little bit why we made this change and what the plans are for the channel. Because as you can see, a lot of things have changed since our last upload.
And as you can see us now.
I'm sorry for everybody that's got to see me, but we're a package deal.
The good news is you can see me too, so it's all right.
So
it'll be okay.
So we've got a lot of changes coming up. For the most part, the podcast part of it is going to stay the same. We are still going to upload to all the podcast places that we currently do. But we are definitely going to be expanding our YouTube presence. And as such, we have many ideas for many different types of videos that we want to do. Some really fun ones. Some ones where I get to, torture Jordan for the whole entire video.
Super excited about those.
So, just stick with us. We may have changed our name and changed the logo, but we are still the same and probably better than we were before.
And we cannot wait to have you here at All Things. No. We
It's still new.
Still new. We cannot wait to have you at Mysterious 51.
So with that being said, let's get into our very first video. Whether you believe in them or not, they've got a long history of showing up in the strangest places. Abandoned castles, creaky attics, and yes, sometimes even legal courtrooms. Today we're heading back to the early 1800s London. Specifically, the foggy streets of Hammersmith. People there were being terrorized by what they claimed was a glowing, ghostly figure lurking in the local cemetery. And no, this wasn't just someone in a bedsheet trying to be funny.
I'm just so excited to hear this because we've gone over this just a touch before we started recording, and I know a little bit of what's coming, and it's just...
We did a test video for about, first 10 minutes of the video.
Yeah, 10, 15 minutes. And I know a little of what's coming, and it's just, listen, I said it on the first run, and this sounds straight out of Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
It legitimately does. Scooby-Doo, or, I don't know, almost like Supernatural, but one of the episodes that, it's not actually Supernatural.
Supernatural that I've yet to see.
Yeah, you're weird. Get on it.
It's on my list.
Get on it.
I mean, I've watched the first few episodes
a dozen times. Yeah, I know.
Just can't get past that. But anyways, the townsfolk were so scared they started arming themselves and patrolling the streets at night. That's how, in one of the weirdest turns in supernatural history, someone ended up shooting what they thought was a ghost. But turned out to be a very real, very alive man. This is the bizarre and true tale of the Hammersmith Ghost. The haunting that led to one of the strangest murder trials in British history. Spoiler alert, no one arrested the ghost.
Well, that's disappointing.
I know. I really wanted to see a ghost on trial. That would be just phenomenal.
Same. I want to see the court transcripts.
You just see a lawyer next to an empty seat in a courtroom.
Witness. Come on. How would that even work? But I don't even know. I'm sure they would have tried it.
Honestly, I wouldn't put it past them. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't put it past some places in the United States, so.
Oh, for sure. But for some reason, this screams London to me. It just does. But
especially early London 1800s.
Exactly. It just seems right.
That was a different time back then.
It was. But like, I just know for sure if they could have managed to catch an actual ghost, they would have been like, you're standing trial.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 100%.
For sure.
And then they would have tried him and sentenced him to death, which would be an interesting conundrum.
Oh, yeah. They would have hanged him somehow. Do I know how? No. I'm not sure they would have known how, but they would have tried.
And the whole town would have came and showed up.
Oh, for sure. With pitchforks.
Oh, my God. Okay. Let's set the scene. Hammersmith, 1803. No electricity, no cell phones, no podcasts. Not even ours.
Disappointing.
Just fog, oil lamps, and the occasional horse-drawn carriage clip-clopping through the narrow streets. People worked hard, died young, and had a healthy fear of things that went bump in the night. Around November of that year, rumors began to swirl about something eerie happening near the local churchyard. People were whispering about a ghost, a tall figure in white that glowed in the dark and drifted silently through the cemetery. Now, you might be thinking, a glowing figure? Sure, probably just someone with a lantern and a flair for the drama. But this wasn't just a visual gag. People claimed it was violent. One woman said it grabbed her by the throat. Another said she was chased so badly that she fainted. A local wagon driver even lost control of his horses and crashed, later dying of his injuries, all because he claimed he saw the ghost jump out at him.
How? Oh, okay. So he died later.
Yeah.
Okay. So that makes, at first I was like, okay, how do we know he said that if he died?
He didn't die right away, and he was able to talk before he died.
That makes a little more sense.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if he talked to like authorities or if he just someone that was a witness nearby talked to him.
That still just seems so ridiculous.
But, yeah.
I do love that they immediately just go, it's a ghost. Of course, I mean, it's 1800s.
Yeah.
They're very religious. Mm-hmm. So, of course, I'm trying to put myself in that mindset. Everything is, ghosts at that point in time. So I probably would have thought something of the sort too.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would have thought something different.
I don't know. And that's why, I'm trying to think and put my mind in that time era. Because, I mean, just on the surface, it just seems so ridiculous.
I mean, looking back now, yeah. But living in that time, I honestly don't think you would have thought of something else.
Yeah. And, I mean, honestly, maybe it was an actual ghost. I don't know. Obviously, I do, to a certain extent, believe in ghosts. But I don't necessarily believe in, evil ghosts. If that makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
And this just, a ghost walking through the cemetery, sure. But the whole attacking people thing, I don't know about that. That seems like people just overreacting.
Oh, absolutely. And it doesn't seem to have one specific go-to either.
Yeah.
Typically, I feel like if there's some sort of, I'm even going to go as far as say demon, because typically if you've seen, an entity attack something, it's usually demonic. And we've done all sorts of different paranormal things and gone in depth on the show. And it's usually demonic. And it usually, it does kind of work its way up from one thing, but it stays kind of on the same track. Yeah. And this is kind of all over the place.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's, this story gets weirder as we go on, so.
Oh, it gets weirder?
Yep.
Yes.
The story quickly snowballed. Some said the specter was the ghost of a man who had died by suicide and was buried in holy ground, which, according to tradition at the time, meant he couldn't rest peacefully. Others believed it was a spirit rising to punish sinners. You know, standard ghost business.
As you do.
But whatever people believed, one thing was certain. The town was terrified. By December, no one wanted to walk alone at night. Residents began locking their doors early. Pubs buzzed with rumors. And because this was 1803 and social media hadn't been invented yet, fear spread the old-fashioned way. Gossip, paranoia, and the occasional panic sermon. Eventually, things got so bad that groups of locals, mostly men with very little training and a lot of guns, started forming neighborhood watch patrols. Their mission? Catch the ghost. And let's be honest, what could possibly go wrong when you hand out firearms to scared civilians hunting an invisible enemy in the dark? As you might guess, a lot.
I was going to say absolutely nothing. There's absolutely nothing that could go wrong with that. There's just people running amok, terrified, people that don't have a clue how ghosts work because we're just going to lock our doors. That's going to solve everything. It's not like they can walk through walls.
Yeah. I mean, come on, Jordan. Locking the doors saves the day.
Clearly. That's vampires, first of all.
So fun fact.
Be invited in.
Or the people of Hammersmith eventually become the residents of Florida.
I'm gathering that.
Yeah. So, I mean, ghosts, I don't know. This just, the fact that they thought that guns were going to protect them, I mean, honestly, we got people like that now.
I mean, I get it, but at the same time, when you're scared and you don't know how to protect yourself, like, what else are you going to do?
Yeah, I mean, on the surface, I get it. But it's just kind of ridiculous.
I'm armed. Don't come any closer.
By January 1804, the residents of Hammersmith weren't just afraid. They were on edge. The so-called ghost had been haunting the town for weeks, and every shadow looked suspicious. People were tired, they were scared, and honestly, they were ready to shoot first and ask ghostly questions later. That brings us to Francis Smith. Now, Francis wasn't a soldier or a cop or a trained ghost hunter like me and Jordan. Because, well, those things didn't exist. He was an excise officer, which meant he collected taxes on things like alcohol. So
Same thing.
Yeah, something. So not exactly armed for combat, but Smith, like many others, had grown tired of the town's panic, and he decided it was time to do something about it. On the night of January 3rd, 1804, Smith loaded his shotgun and joined one of the local ghost patrols.
Yes.
Picture it. A 29-year-old man in a frock coat, boots, caked in January mud, carrying a long flintlock musket, determined to bring justice to either the spectral world or at least local folklore.
And they were so mad. They're like,
yeah,
we are scared, but we are armed, and we're going to get this guy.
They had ghost patrols.
Yes. We're going to have to start doing that. We're going to have ghost patrols now.
Just because. We'll just do them for fun.
Absolutely.
Why not?
We have to protect the people.
Protect the people from one lonely ghost.
Ghost patrol to the rescue. We are armed for the ghosts.
That seems like a really weird spin-off to Paw Patrol.
Maybe it could be. I don't make the rules.
Now I'm just picturing the Paw Patrol kind of ghost patrol.
Kids would love that crap, man.
I would too.
Parents probably not, but kids would love it.
Hey, don't knock Paw Patrol.
I'm not saying I'm knocking Paw Patrol. I'm saying parents would hate Ghost Patrol.
To stay tuned for Ghost Patrol. Coming soon. It was cold, dark, the moon was low, the air thick with fog. There was no street lights, back then just oil lamps, flickering behind window panes. The wind carried the occasional creak of tree branches, maybe the distant bark of a dog, but otherwise silence. And then Smith saw it. A tall figure in white moving down the street near Black Lion Lane slowly. Smith called out, "Who's there?"
That'll do it. He's going to give up right then, you guys.
Yep. All you got to say to the ghost is, "Who's there?" And
They answer, give himself up. Ta-da.
or they don't answer because the figure didn't respond. He
Shocker.
called again. "Who's there?" Still nothing.
Because it's a ghost.
Some accounts say the figure may have turned or looked towards Smith, but didn't say a word. Whether out of fear, certainty, or both, Smith raised the shotgun and fired. The shot rang out, echoing down the narrow lane. The figure collapsed immediately. But the ghost didn't vanish. Because, shocker, it wasn't a ghost at all. It was Thomas Millwood, a bricklayer, 29 years old, a newlywed. And his only crime was wearing his work uniform. Millwood's outfit consisted of a white linen shirt, white trousers, and a white apron, standard for bricklayers at the time, but unfortunately also a dead ringer for the whole ghostly figure people had been describing.
Why didn't he answer?
Some people say that he didn't hear him, or, you know.
That's fair if it was windy, like it does.
I mean, at nighttime, it's nighttime, he's walking and someone says, calls out to you. I mean, you're going to look to see who it is first, see if it's someone you know.
It's like, what?
Yeah. I mean, you're not going to instantly just be like, yeah, or, respond. So, I mean, I understand that. This dude definitely just, shot first and was going to ask questions later. And that, that can be said about fear. I mean,
yeah, there was a lot of fear going on at the time. Everybody was in a panic.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm sorry. I'm very much on the fence. Like, if you're afraid, you really shouldn't have a gun. Because all that's going to do is you're going to end up killing someone. Case in point.
Example A.
Yeah. Thomas had been visiting his sister just up the road. On the way to his home in the dark, he didn't know he was walking straight into town hysteria. Smith, now realizing the horror of what he'd done, was reportedly shaken and remorseful. Neighbors rushed out to the sound of the shot. Someone recognized Millwood immediately. His body was taken into a nearby house, but there was nothing anyone could do. The shot had hit him square in the lower jaw and shattered his spine. Smith was arrested almost immediately. He didn't resist. He had admitted what he'd done. But the ghost talk didn't stop. But it did take on a different tone. The headlines weren't about glowing phantoms anymore. They were about Francis Smith, the man who killed another man over a ghost story. And as the story made its way beyond Hammersmith into London and beyond, the question quickly became, was this just a tragic mistake, or had belief in the supernatural become deadly? What followed next was one of the strangest court cases in early British history, where a man didn't just have to defend his actions, he had to defend his belief in what he thought was the ghost.
That would be awful difficult.
Yeah, I mean, then you get into the questions of, is his belief that it was a ghost, was that a valid reason? It's hard because, like...
Yes and no, because shooting a ghost is going to do what?
Yeah, that's... I mean, granted, I don't know. Maybe they just didn't know much about ghosts. I don't know. I'm with you. I mean, I think you'd have to justify what shooting would do. I don't know.
Scare it away or something? I don't know. I'm trying to follow his thought process and all of their thought processes here, really.
Yeah, and I mean, just looking at it from like our point of view, looking back on it, it just seems like he killed him on purpose. Because I mean, I don't understand what they think a gun's gonna do.
I think at the time, and I'm just trying to put myself in their shoes to the best of my ability, which is really difficult. That was all that they had. They didn't have anything else. So they've got this thing that's scaring people, possibly hurting or killing them. The only weapon they've got is a gun.
Yeah. I mean,
and that's all that, maybe that's partially why they were so scared.
I don't know. I kind of understand it, but at the same time, it's just like, I don't know. But let's go into the trial.
Oh, even better.
After the shooting at Thomas Millwood, the ghost of Hammersmith didn't vanish, but it did take a backseat. The new focus, the man who shot him. Francis Smith had turned himself in, confessed to the shooting, and was charged with willful murder. A serious offense that could result in death by hanging. Now, Smith wasn't some hardened criminal. He wasn't even a hothead. By most accounts, he was a mild-mannered, reasonable man who simply made a horrible mistake, but the question at the heart of the case was, just how horrible was it? When the trial began at the Old Bailey, London's most famous criminal court, the courtroom was packed. Reporters, lawyers, and curious spectators gathered to hear the details of what was quickly being called the ghost murder. The defense's strategy? Pretty straightforward. Smith generally, sincerely believed he was firing at a ghost. He wasn't trying to kill a man. He was trying to protect the neighborhood from what he thought was a supernatural threat. His defense team brought up the state of the fear in Hammersmith, the weeks of ghost sightings, the emotional toll. They pointed to his character, his honesty, the fact that he didn't run or lie. He confessed immediately. And most importantly, they asked the jury to consider his belief. Was it murder if the killer thought he was shooting a spirit? Cue the legal headache. The judge, Lord Chief Baron MacDonald, and yes, that's his real title, wasn't having it.
That's a mouthful of a title.
In fact, he gave the jury some very clear, very stern instructions. Paraphrased, it went something like this. Look, I don't care if you believe in ghosts, goblins, or dancing skeletons. If you fire a gun at a person, ghost or no ghost, and kill them, that is murder, period.
Touche, sir. Touche.
I may have paraphrased just a slight bit.
Okay, but still.
But yeah, that was his basic intent was,
I get it, though.
Essentially, no matter the reason why, the end result is the same.
Yeah, you're still shooting at something.
Yeah. I mean, I understand it. Because, honestly, we talked about this when we did the Salem witch trials.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to keep supernatural out of court cases. I mean, it never works out.
There's not really anything you can bring up that has anything to do with that, and it has nothing to do with it.
No. But I will say, kind of in this one, I kind of understand his point of view. If I kind of sit back in myself in the time frame, I can kind of understand why he did what he did.
I can see it. It's just, you got to think, man.
Yeah.
And you weren't thinking.
No, exactly.
It was just mass hysteria. Everybody's panicking. You panicked a little too hard.
Yeah. So then where do you... Obviously, you got to take the hysteria part into it because, that's fact.
Yeah. And I do get it. And to an extent, I empathize. But I think whatever government back then should have been doing something.
Yeah.
I don't think they were managing the situation at all to attempt to, I'm going to say, comfort their people, or, you know, make them believe that they're safe, that they're doing something about the situation. It doesn't appear that they were.
My whole point is, like, I can understand it. You know, honestly, this is a tragic situation for, you know, everyone involved. Because at the heart of it, you know, this guy is basically on trial for murder, you know, and he could be hanged. And, you know, he killed a man who had a wife, family, that, you know, but then you got to say, you know, is it tragic? Is it an accident? Is it murder? You know, what do we classify it as, type thing, you know? And I don't know. I
feel like in these days, would it be like manslaughter?
Yeah, I mean, I think they probably would classify it as manslaughter.
Third-degree murder, maybe?
Yeah.
Because it wasn't planned, really.
I don't think they would. I think it would be manslaughter. Probably voluntary manslaughter.
Something like that, yeah.
Ultimately, he did choose to fire the gun.
Yeah, just wasn't attempting to, in his head, shoot a living human being.
Yeah. So, I don't know. It's tragic. More formally, the judge explained that a mistaken belief, no matter how sincere, does not justify using deadly force. This was huge. Up until then, there was no precedent for a case like this. The legal system didn't have a rule book for ghost-related homicides. But Lord MacDonald made it clear, you can't just shoot something because you think it's spooky. The jury deliberated.
Yes. Bravo.
The jury deliberated, probably while whispering, did he really think it was just a ghost? But then they returned. They found Francis Smith guilty of willful murder. The sentence, death by hanging. Just like that, the tax collector turned ghost hunter was set to pay the ultimate price. But the story doesn't end there.
But wait, there's more.
That would have been better. Almost immediately after the sentence was handed down, public outcry exploded. People were torn. On one hand, yes, a man had died. That couldn't be undone. But on the other hand, Smith hadn't acted out of malice. He'd been caught in a wave of mass hysteria. He truly believed he was protecting his community. Should that really carry the same punishment as a cold-blooded killer? The case even reached the attention of the king himself, King George III, who issued a royal pardon just days later. Smith's death sentence was commuted to a year of hard labor, which, while unpleasant, was a far cry from the gallows. And so, Francis Smith lived. He served his time and reportedly went on to live a quiet life. But the case didn't just fade away. It stuck in the legal consciousness. It became a landmark moment in British law, sparking one of the earliest public debates about the role of belief, fear, and intent in criminal justice. Think about it. In a time when people were still regularly believed in ghosts, this case drew a firm legal line in the spectral sand. Believing in ghosts might be your business, but shooting one, that's everyone's business. And that brings us back to a bigger question. What exactly was the Hammersmith Ghost? Because while the trial ended, the haunting hadn't quite faded away just yet. Theory 1. The prankster in bedsheets.
For real? I can't right now.
Well, sit right back, you're gonna. Picture this. You're a shoemaker in 1803 London. Life is simple. You work hard, try to keep your family safe, and maybe, just maybe, you'd like a bit of peace and quiet in the evenings. But your apprentices? They keep telling ghost stories, loud ones, to your kids. And now your children won't sleep because apparently there's a glowing phantom floating through the churchyard. So what do? Well, if you're John Graham, you take matters into your own hands by becoming the ghost yourself.
I'm sorry. That seems so logical. What? My children are terrified. Let me become the thing of their freaking nightmares.
So allegedly, his goal was not to terrify his children, but to terrify his apprentices to stop talking about the ghosts and trying to scare his children.
That's still...
I don't know, man.
All right, buddy. Again, with the logic that they're having here, I'm not following, but all right.
It's 1800s London. I mean, what do you expect?
Good Lord.
Now you understand why I made the comment about these people eventually becoming the people of Florida.
Good God.
After the tragic death of Thomas Millwood, when the town was shaken and court proceedings were already underway, a quiet little detail emerged. A shoemaker, John Graham, came forward and admitted he had dressed in white and wandered the churchyard to scare his apprentices who had been scaring his kids. His logic: you scare my family, I'll scare you worse.
I can't, because that just makes me so irritated, and it just...
I know. It's ridiculous, but
it is.
It's so funny that I don't know.
That's so dumb.
It really is. But it made sense to him, so, it was an old school parenting tactic mixed with a little theater.
Whatever you do, buddy, just all right.
Let's talk about his costume now.
Great.
Graham didn't go full Hollywood ghost. This was 1803 after all. But witnesses described the original Hammersmith Ghost as being cloaked in white, tall, and silent. Most likely, Graham wore a white sheet or long undergarments, maybe even flour-dusted clothing to glow faintly in the moonlight. Some reports mention glassy eyes or luminance, which could be chalked up to lantern reflections or pure imagination. It wasn't fancy, but it didn't need to be. On a foggy night in a cemetery in a town already buzzing with fear, even the suggestion of something ghostly was enough. Graham's little act, whether meant as a joke, a warning, or a bit of petty revenge, unintentionally sparked a chain reaction. His apprentices freaked out, they told others, then they told others, and within days the town was buzzing.
Everything got out of hand from there.
Yep. There's something haunting the graveyard. It's glowing. It strangled a woman.
Jesus Christ.
The stories grew wilder by the night. Pretty soon people were saying the ghost could fly, disappear, or vanish into walls. Classic ghost inflation. When a prank becomes a panic, what Graham didn't account for, because how could he, was the town-wide hysteria that would follow. As more people claimed to have seen the ghost, fear spread like a fever. Night patrols were organized, men loaded muskets, people began to see what they expected to see. Even those who never saw a ghost firsthand believed it. That's the danger of suggestion. It didn't require evidence, just repetition. It only took one misidentification. Francis Smith seeing poor Thomas Millwood in his white work clothes for the situation to turn deadly. Now, you might be wondering, wait, he started this whole thing. Why didn't he get in trouble? Is that what you're thinking, Jordan?
For the most part, yeah, because clearly he's over here like, well, actually, I did a thing.
Good question, Jordan. The simple answer, timing. Graham's confession came after the shooting had already taken place, and there was no direct link proving his actions led to Millwood's death. Plus, the town was focused on Smith's trial. Legally, it would have been hard to hold Graham accountable for the ripple effect of fear, gossip, and tragedy. Even morally, his prank played a massive role. Now, did Graham really do it?
There's no freaking telling. There's no telling. I have no freaking clue.
Here's the twist. Some historians and skeptics aren't fully convinced Graham was the ghost, at least not the ghost everyone saw. There were a few reasons for doubt. Graham claimed he only dressed up once, to scare his apprentices. The ghost sightings continued for weeks, and after Millwood's death, no one saw the ghost again. It's possible that other pranksters picked up where Graham left off, or perhaps his story became a convenient explanation, an easy scapegoat for something people couldn't explain. But whether Graham was the ghost or a ghost, one thing is clear. His prank spiraled into one of the most tragic urban legends in British history. John Graham's story is a cautionary tale, not just about pretending to be a ghost, but about how quickly fear can spread, and how dangerous it can become when combined with superstition, rumor, and a loaded musket. One man's prank turned into another man's trial, a town's fear turned into national headlines, and in the end, no ghost was ever found. Just a man in white, another man who mistook him for something from beyond.
And everybody lost their mind. All the panic, all the hysteria.
Which is actually theory number 2.
I believe that.
Theory 2. Mass hysteria and fear-based delusion.
This is the one I believe. Without even going into it, this is the one.
All right, you heard it here. Theory 2 is Jordan's favorite.
I haven't even gotten into the rest of it. This is it. I pick it. Don't even know. I'm going to regret that later, I feel like.
You will.
Probably.
So,
Story of my life.
Even though you believe it already, let's go ahead and get into it, though.
I mean, you're going to anyway,
Yeah,
so
I am.
Go ahead.
So maybe it wasn't a ghost. Maybe it wasn't even a prank. What if the entire Hammersmith Ghost panic was the result of something much more human? Fear, belief, and the contagious power of suggestion. In other words, mass hysteria. Now you might be asking, what is mass hysteria?
Panic.
First,
All it takes is this little tiny root, and it spreads like wildfire.
I'm going to pretend Jordan didn't say anything. And first, let's define it.
I defined it. You're welcome.
Mass hysteria, also known as mass psychogenic illness, is a phenomenon where a group of people all begin to exhibit similar behaviors, feelings, or even physical symptoms without any physical cause. And it's surprisingly common throughout history. In 1518, dozens of people in France danced uncontrollably in the streets for days in the infamous dancing plague, which we talked about before.
Yep.
In 1962, a laughing epidemic spread through a school in Tanzania. And in more recent times, mass fainting spells, mysterious rashes, and phantom smells have hit schools, factories, and offices. These events all have one thing in common. They spread through suggestion and belief, not through an actual threat. So let's rewind back to Hammersmith at the end of 1803. It's a small London district, dimly lit and deeply religious. People walk home in darkness. They rely on candlelight and oil lamps. Shadows are everywhere. Creaks and groans in the night are just part of the soundtrack of life. And then the ghost rumors start. At first, it's just one or two stories. Someone seeing a strange figure in the graveyard, but then more reports come in. Some say the ghost grabbed them, others say it vanished into thin air, and someone even dies after losing control of their horse, allegedly after seeing the spirit. The feedback loop. This is where hysteria sets in. The more people talk about the ghost, the more others start to see it. Not because it's real, but because they're expecting it. That's how mass delusion works. If you walk past a graveyard alone and your brain is already primed to believe there's a ghost, then even a tree limb, a coat hanging on a fence, or a man in white work clothes can become something terrifying.
Well, and so let's talk about that for a second. So, where we work, we have what we like to joke is an office ghost.
Yep.
We call him Fred.
Fred's our friend.
Fred is our friend. Personally, I like to yell at Fred. He doesn't help me very much, and it's annoying. I know he's there. I know he can do things like open doors. I don't know why he can't answer the phone. Anyway, a while back, we hired a bunch of new people, right? And I would like to say I'm not scared of Fred. He does not scare me. I have worked in that office alone overnight several times. The elevators come upstairs by itself, whatever. I don't care. I just, like I said, I just yell at Fred. I tell the new people, right? I'm like, look, sometimes the elevator comes upstairs by itself. That's just Fred. It's fine. The automated hand sanitizer dispensers, they're going to go off by themselves sometimes. That's normal. The doors, all of which are like the kind you can't slam because they have like that soft close.
Yeah.
They will slam.
Yeah.
You will hear it.
Yeah.
That's fine. It's just Fred.
Secure doors that are, locked by a key card, they will open and close.
They will open and close by themselves. You are the only one in the whole building. I started a bit of hysteria.
She did.
It was unintentional. I was just trying to prepare people for what they were going to hear. And I had people freaked out.
Yeah. That's not even an understatement.
Absolutely panicked.
Because I also tell people about Fred, too, because, Fred is very much a part of the team.
He's our coworker.
Yeah.
We love Fred.
I keep trying to have them make a badge for him, but they haven't yet.
It's disappointing.
I know.
He would totally wear it.
He would. Just see the black badge floating around.
I mean, he's a member of the team, whether he wants to be or not. Anyway, the hysteria thing, it's very real.
Yeah.
Because these people who had come in, were super confident, suddenly were terrified.
Yeah.
I didn't intend to do that.
No.
I promise. I had no intentions of making them scared.
And that's like kind of the funny thing about this, because like me and Jordan both had independently seen stuff and heard stuff at that office. We never really talked about that part until the night we were working together, and the elevator comes from the down floor all the way up to us and the doors open. Now, at our office, the way that it works at nighttime is to get into the elevator, you need a key card. You cannot, the elevator just doesn't move and doesn't open the doors unless you go down, push the button, and, to go to the second floor. And we were just working, and all of a sudden the elevator comes up and the doors open.
We just stared at it.
Yeah. And that was honestly the first time that we had talked about all the stuff that we had heard in that office. And I think that's actually the day that we came up with his name, too.
I think so.
But, yeah, I mean...
Regardless, though, that's, for the most part, how hysteria begins to spread.
Yeah. Very much. I mean, luckily, Fred's not a bad ghost. He's very friendly. Except for the day when he almost gave me a heart attack when I saw him, but...
Yeah, or that day with the big boom.
Yeah.
I don't know what that was.
Yeah, we still have no idea, but...
Well, it's just weird.
Yeah, so hysteria is definitely a real thing.
But all it took was us telling a couple of honestly not scary ghost stories. And within a couple of days, we'd heard all of these terrifying stories about what people had seen and heard at night. And I mean, their eyes were as big as saucers.
Yeah.
And Fred is not scary. He is also not malicious in the slightest.
No, he's really not. He definitely likes to play pranks, though, sometimes.
Yeah. He's a little prankster.
He fits in very well with us.
He does. He really does. We should move him here.
Yeah. I would like to have Fred in here.
Fred would be great over here.
Maybe he could help with the cameras since you keep breaking them.
I have not touched anything.
Sometimes just your presence is enough.
I know. But regardless, that's literally all that it takes.
But
is just this tiny little seed
yeah.
of fear.
So I will
And
say,
it spreads.
I will say though that I think a lot of the times that they blame hysteria, mass hysteria, I think it's just kind of a cop out because they don't understand the true cause.
There are plenty of times, I think, yeah.
Like we've talked about the Gloria Ramirez case.
Yes. Yes. The toxic woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the one case where they definitely tried chalking up to mass hysteria. Yeah. I don't necessarily believe that, but I mean, obviously, mass hysteria is very real. You know, the dancing plague is a good example.
It's a great example.
We talked about that before, and I just don't think it fits in every aspect.
No.
That makes sense. So
I think it had a decent part of this. I don't think it's the entirety of it.
no.
I thought there was more to this theory. So shame on you for that.
Well, there is. I'm not done yet.
Oh.
You just stopped me in the middle of it.
I got distracted. I got distracted. I was talking about Fred. I love Fred.
So let me continue.
All right.
The town becomes trapped in a feedback loop of fear. The ghost stories fuel the fear fuels more sightings, and those sightings validate the ghost stories. The power of belief. Here's the fascinating part. When people believe something strongly enough, their bodies can react physically. Fear can cause fainting, shortness of breath, hallucinations, even temporary paralysis. So when someone says, I felt the ghost grab me, they might truly believe it happened, even if it didn't. And once fear is accepted by the group, it spreads. It becomes collectively reality, even if the source isn't real. In 1803, the ghost became as real as taxes and fog. Enter Thomas Millwood. And this is where the theory turns tragic. Because when Thomas Millwood, the bricklayer, walked through the neighborhood wearing the white work uniform, people didn't see a man. They saw the ghost they'd been warned about. Their clothes matched the descriptions. His silence matched the ghost's behavior. Francis Smith didn't just see a person. He saw everything the town had been whispering about for weeks. All those ghost stories bundled into one unlucky pedestrian.
Reminds me of like a cartoon when their eyes just go like giant.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's truly kind of what it happened.
Basically, honestly, it really is. I mean, after the shooting, the ghost sightings stopped. Not because the ghost was dealt with, but because the hysteria hit a breaking point. A man had died. The fun of storytelling turned into grief, guilt, and legal consequences. People stopped romanticizing the figure in white and started questioning how far things had gone. Was it all in their heads? So was the ghost ever real? Maybe not. According to this theory, what haunted Hammersmith wasn't a spirit, it was fear itself. Fear of the unknown, fear of sin and spirits, fear of the dark, the grave, and what might be waiting just around the corner. And once that fear was unleashed, it became unstoppable until it killed someone. Mass hysteria isn't about gullibility. It's about being human. When we're afraid, we fill in the blanks. We connect the dots that aren't there. And sometimes the scariest thing of all is our own imagination.
It's true.
Yeah, it is.
I still honestly, for the most part, believe this theory.
Yeah.
Especially in this case. Because basically, at this point, the entire town was just panic.
Yeah.
All panic, all the time. Everybody get in your house. There's a ghost that's going to kill you. Panic.
Yeah. It just takes a little bit and, it just spreads quickly.
Well, and especially back in that time frame when everyone was super religious and you didn't have, the internet to do little researchy research.
Yeah.
We have that now. We can be like,
just most of us still.
Ghosts. You know what I mean? And you didn't have that back then. You had to go by word of mouth. And everything back then was religious word of mouth, which is just going to make things so much worse.
Well, yeah. I mean, we still have that today. I mean, and look how bad it is now.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, this guy shot somebody out of basically fear. And a couple days later, he's like, and you're sentenced to death.
Yeah.
I mean, everything's just worse when you rely on that.
Oh, yeah. So let's get into theory number 3.
Fantastic.
A real supernatural entity.
I feel like 2 and 3 could be combined.
Could be. But so far, we've looked at pranksters and mass hysteria. Those are rational explanations, the ones you can put under a microscope. But what if Hammersmith really was haunted? What if, buried beneath the logic, legal cases, and foggy memories, there truly was something otherworldly drifting through that graveyard in 1803? To understand this theory, we need to go back before the first sightings. Local stories claimed that a man had died by suicide and was buried in the Hammersmith churchyard. According to the 18th and 19th century Christian belief, suicide was a sin, and those who died by it weren't given traditional burials. But sometimes exceptions were made, and when they were, communities believed the soul would not rest. The Hammersmith Ghost was rumored to be the restless spirit, a man rejected in death, doomed to wander the earth. In some versions, he was trying to repent. In others, he sought revenge, angry that his spirit had been denied peace. The people of Hammersmith didn't just say they saw something. They described in vivid, eerie detail a tall figure in white, glowing faintly, a face like a skull, silent movements, like it floated rather than walked, and in some cases, direct physical contact. Women reported being grabbed, choked, or knocked down. This wasn't just shadowy figures in the dark. This was something active, malevolent, intelligent. Notably, the ghost was never seen during the day, always after sunset, always near the churchyard. If you're a fan of ghost stories or paranormal investigation, this will sound familiar. The location, graveyards, classic haunting grounds. The timing, late at night, when energy is said to be the strongest. The behavior, attacking or frightening the living, hallmarks of an unsettled spirit. Even the fact that it vanished after Millwood's death has its place in ghost lore. Some believe that a spirit claims a life, intentionally or not, and then finally finds peace or disappears into something darker. What makes this theory compelling for some is the consistency in the sightings. Unlike many ghost legends that get exaggerated over time, the original descriptions were surprisingly similar, even across unrelated witnesses. That included people of different social classes, genders, and ages. They all described a tall white figure with a haunting presence. They all reported sudden terror, not the kind you invent, but the kind that feels like it's pressed against your skin. Were they lying, imagining things? Or did they all see the same thing? Now, skeptics will say this is all folklore, fear wrapped in old wives' tales, but even folklore has its roots. Ghosts have shown up in nearly every culture in the world. Different names, different forms, but the same essential idea. The dead doesn't always stay dead. Could the Hammersmith Ghost have been a true example of that? A haunting that had spiraled into tragedy not because it was fake, but because it was real. Here's something to think about. After Millwood was killed and the trial concluded, no more ghost sightings were reported. Not a single one. It's as if the ghost had gotten what it wanted. Justice, revenge, a soul for a soul. In ghost lore, that's a chillingly common pattern. A spirit lingers until a debt is paid, a wrong is righted, a life is taken, and then it fades. If the Hammersmith Ghost was real, it wasn't just a ghost story. It was a haunting with consequences. A spirit that caused fear, panic, and ultimately death. So was it prank, hysteria, or did the people of Hammersmith really come face to face with something they couldn't explain and couldn't stop?
I think it's definitely possible.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. This one I'm kind of torn on, honestly. Like, I want to believe that it was an actual ghost, but obviously we know that, it was at least partly, prank.
Well, and that's my thing. I'm thinking a couple of things. I'm thinking, what if it was a combination of hysteria, one person seeing what's his name in the ghost getup, and maybe the guy in the painter's suit,
Yeah.
maybe he'd visited his sister before.
Yeah.
There's so many different things and different, what's the word I'm looking for? Jobs
Yeah.
that you wear something similar to that for. Bricklayers, painters, things like that. And it would be so simple to just be walking home from work. It's late.
Yeah. Maybe someone wants to cut through the cemetery to save some time, which weird, but okay. Now,
If you're that tired, I get it. I'm just saying.
I do believe that, this is another one of the stories that could kind of go where all three of them could be true in part.
Exactly. It could be all of the above.
Yeah. Because, like, for instance, for, our work, Fred very much, I believe, is real. Mostly because I actually seen him. And then there's also the hysteria part of it, because there definitely was hysteria involved in it.
Oh my God, there was so much. People were so panicked.
Now,
It's just like, calm down. Fred's nice.
yeah. Now, we didn't, we never played a prank on people about it, but still, it's very much possible that all three could be in part true.
It would be so easy for somehow all three of them to be true.
Yeah.
Even just a rumor of, because somebody is buried in that cemetery. Just that idea.
No.
That's how a rumor starts.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Somebody
really.
sees that, maybe almost way before anything even starts. Somebody sees Tom forever ago walking across that same path, visiting his sister.
No.
Oh my God, it looks like a ghost.
Yeah.
That's all it takes.
Oh,
Ghost
yeah.
stories start. Then, what's his name? I can't remember, sorry. Gets fed up with all this.
Smith.
Yes. Gets in costume. And then the hysteria truly begins
Yeah.
and goes crazy.
Oh, yeah, not Smith. The shoe. I don't know.
Yeah,
I forget.
the shoemaker
I'm
guy.
so horrible with names.
I don't know. There are too many names in this. I got distracted. But regardless, that's all it seems. It could be all of the above.
Yeah.
Or it could be none of the above, and it could be something we don't even know.
Yeah, it really could be. But I don't know. We'll never know.
No, we won't. It's a great story, though.
It really is. I
Aside
love the
from
story.
poor man that died.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean,
Sorry you were literally in the wrong place at the wrong time.
It was so long ago. I mean, he would be dead by now anyways, so.
I mean, he would, but that still sucks.
Yeah, it really does. Well. The Hammersmith Ghost case is one of those rare moments in history where the supernatural collides with the legal system, where belief isn't just personal, it becomes deadly. A man lost his life, another was nearly executed, and all of it stemmed from something that, depending on who you ask, may not have even existed. We've explored the theories, a prank gone too far, a town consumed by fear and suggestion, and yes, even the possibility of a real spirit haunting the graveyard with unfinished business. But here's the thing, the truth might never be clear. That's the nature of these stories. They live in the in-between spaces between fact and folklore, between candlelight and shadow. And in that space, a ghost doesn't have to be real to be dangerous. All it takes is belief. Francis Smith didn't pull the trigger on a ghost. He pulled the trigger on what he believed was real. In that moment, belief became more powerful than logic. Maybe that's the scariest part of this entire case. Not the ghost, but how far we'll go when fear takes over. The Hammersmith Ghost hasn't been seen since 1804. But ask yourself this. If the figure appeared again today, would we be any less likely to believe or act? And if you saw something drifting through the graveyard, glowing white in the fog, would you run? Or would you raise your weapon? Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into one of history's strangest ghost stories. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a comment, and share it with someone else who loves a good mystery, whether they believe in ghosts or not. And if you ever had your own ghostly encounter, leave a comment. We're always listening, even in the dark.